So good morning. Today I wanted to talk about one of my least favourite cards in the tarot, probably my second least card, which is the Six of Cups. My most least favourite card is also a Cups. That would be the Queen of Cups. Now clearly that is not the Six of Cups, that's the Five of Wands. But I wanted to start with the Five of Wands. Most people know the Five of Wands as conflict, loss, difficulties. We've got the Five of Swords here, arguments, loss, defeat. All of the fives are about basically conflict and struggle. We know that, right? So why is the Six of Cups overlooked as a card of sweet memories, nostalgia and childhood? Mostly probably because in a lot of decks it really is portrayed like that. But what usually happens after conflict? Well, what usually happens after conflict is there is a readjustment of power. And now let's look carefully at all the sixes. Here we have the Six of Wands, triumph, success, victory. But there is one leader and the rest are followers. Here we have the Six of Swords, a beautiful card, a much hoped for card in lots of readings. But again, we have someone in control and someone who is being guided. Six Pentacles, I'll be doing this in my next video, all about the control. Look at the way that he's giving the money out. Look at the way that the beggars are kneeling down to receive his generosity, power and control. And then we have the Six of Cups. Now, I love the Rider-Waite deck. There are other decks I love, but to me, the depth in each and every card is so incredible. Yes, of course it can mean childhood, innocence, nostalgia, rose-tinted glasses, but let's have a real look at it now. Notice how the buildings, they seem to be really big. They seem to overshadow. They seem to almost crowd out around these two people. How would you get out? Even the ground and the buildings, there doesn't seem to be a beginning and an end. To me, there is a feeling of entrapment in this card. I have often seen this card represent old people's homes, people being forced out of their homes into other housing that they don't really want. This can be schools, nurseries, institutions of any sort where you feel that you have no power and no control. Now let's look at the Red Hoods. Now in fairy tales, Little Red Riding Hood, try reading some of the older tales about Little Red Riding Hood. They're not nice. You know, it is about power, sexuality, death, blood. It's about growing up and becoming a sexually mature adult, which in time will lead to your death. It is a fascinating tale. If you want to know the legacy of the Red Hoods, certainly in British and American culture, I suggest you watch the film of Don't Look Now with Donald Sutherland. I've never read the book. I'm aware it's by Daphne du Maurier, but it is tantalizingly terrifying about childhood and blood. So give it a go. The next image I want you to look at is the man that is walking away. Now, I tend to think of him as a guard. He appears to have he could be a gardener, I guess, but it doesn't appear to be a rake. It appears to be a spear. And he's turned their back on them. It's easy to overlook these characters as children, but she looks like an old woman to me. She doesn't look like a child. It's like the perspectives are wrong. It's like there's something out of focus in this card, which after all, that's how we remember our childhood, isn't it? We never remember it clearly. What we experienced as a child may have been terrifying as a child, even though we had the most caring and wonderful parents. But looking back on it as an adult, we forget it was terrifying. And yet the fear lives on. It's a strange card. Why is the man walking away? Is it A, because he believes these children are totally safe? And that's an interesting concept. Bear with me, there's so much to say on this card. Because when our children are really young, most parents lie to the children. If you're a young child, you might want to switch off now. Of course, Father Christmas is real. Yes, the Easter Bunny delivers chocolate. No, I'm never going to die. Yes, you're going to get better. You know, everything's going to be fine. I promise you that. Yes, you can be a train driver on Mars. We lie to our children. We tell them what we feel they most need to know to help them to feel safe. Of course, then we look at this symbol here, this cross. This is a St. Andrew's cross, and it's known as the Martyr's Cross because St. Andrew was martyred. He was killed on a cross, and he asked them to turn the cross sideways because he didn't want to be crucified in the same way as Jesus. He didn't feel good enough for that. So this is the Martyr's Cross. So now we have this strange concept of the people, because I refuse to think of them as children, being left safe, not safe. I don't know. We have to martyr our children. At some point, when they're growing older, we have to stop lying to our children. And we have to start saying, if you spend all your pocket money this week, next week you'll have nothing. If you don't work for your exams, you will fail. There has to come a point when we abandon our children to the consequences of their actions and decisions. Of course, the saddest thing is that for a lot of people, that happens at a too younger age, through abuse or neglect or just difficult circumstances. So much going on this card. Sometimes this card is just rose-tinted glasses, ice cream day, simple childhood pleasures. But I would be careful with this card. If it seems important, if it doesn't fit with the rest of the reading, I have almost always found that this card is saying the core, the root of the problem is in childhood. So in a relationship reading, if this is a significant reading, a significant card, then there may be problems in the relationship that are a result of childhood. Now, in the vast majority of cases, this is nothing to do with forgotten memories or abuse or trauma. It is just maybe a mother had to go to hospital for the birth of a child and was there for a little bit longer than expected, and maybe your client or yourself as a young child thought you'd done something wrong. And now you're left with a fear of hospitals or a fear of childbirth or a fear of abandonment. So this is not about abuse and neglect. This is just that what we experience as a child is often experienced as an out of control, but also an egotistical way. We think it was our fault. We think that our parents are arguing because we're not good enough. Actually, they're arguing because the father's lost the job and the mother doesn't know how to cope with the stress. But the child is left thinking, I've done something wrong. So watch out for this card. It can just mean simple childhood pleasures. It can, but really simple childhood pleasures are about nurturing the inner child. And to my understanding, all of us have got wounded inner children, whether we had the best of childhood or not, because we experience everyday things with that feeling of out of control and fear. So that is the Six of Cups. It is, I think, the darkest card in the pack because childhood is considered to be a time of joy, abandonment and pleasure. And actually, we all face problems somewhere in our childhood. So in the next video, I am going to be looking at Six of Pentacles. I will go through all the sixes because I think they are overlooked. I think once people have, if people have got a 5, which tends to be quite a difficult card, then the 6 is seen as resolution. And to me, the 6 is not about resolution. It's about power play and control.